welcome back to Forza Motorsport 7, and I bring sad news. In fact, the sad news is why I'm here on Forza 7, because the Goodwood Festival of Speed in England Land, which has all those crazy motorsport events competing in a hill climb, is postponed for 2020, which is sad. Very sad, in fact. It's scheduled for a month from now, and it was scheduled for a month from now. Anyway, with its postponement, I thought we should do a hill climb on Forza 7. Luckily, we have a hill climb right here at Bathurst Mount Panorama. I actually ran a series up here for a little while, and this Jag XJR5 thing was the fastest up the hill. And that got me thinking, what if instead of doing proper cars, we do the silly, absurd vehicles up the hill climb? So this is the first annual Forza Motorsport 7 Festival of Silliness. And we start out with a nice, sensible car in C-Class, a Hyundai Veloster N. Now, this vehicle is going to be our benchmark. Now, it'll also show us the course for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. We start out with this nice long story. We're going around reverse, just because I think the reverse route of Mount Panorama is actually more interesting than the forward. But as you can see here, the Hyundai, not the most powerful, in fact it is the least powerful car of the day at less than 300 horsepower, front-wheel drive. It is C-Class, but it's sensible. It's not silly, there's no tuning or anything, it's just bone stock Hyundai, and it's going pretty quick up this hill. It did fairly well up on the hill climb series quite a long time ago, but it is making up for, I think it was in the top 50, I think, maybe top 60. It was mid-pack, and it is doing quite well, very composed, heading up the peak of the mountain. We're now entering the downhill section. We have a very nasty sort of chicane braking zone they need to get spot on, or you're going to hit that bright red wall. And there, a deceivingly tricky corner, you got to hug the wall all the way around there, and then duck in for the hairpin. And then we have one more corner to go. It's a nice straightaway into a 90-degree left, and then it's just a run to the finish. Now this corner is decidedly tricky. You have to take a late apex and then cut in towards the end, otherwise you will run wide and hit that poor sign. But we have made it around nice and tightly, and he is going to cross along with a 1:38.6 as our benchmark time. Now we are doing this in reverse PI order, which means that this A-Class Ford Fiesta XR2 is next up on the list, but apart from having 700 horsepower and a very open differential, there is nothing special about this car except for the fact that it can endo. Yes, you hit the brakes and it will front flip like mad, but on the plus side, it is very light. And apart from the brakes and the differential, it has been known to be pretty darn fast. So, will it be able to beat the Veloster? We shall see. That was a benchmark time of 1:38.6, and it is significantly faster up the hill, cutting the grass a little bit. You can see the back end just slightly hopping up, but it's not too terrible. And then we get, well, I say one-tire fire, it's really more of a one-tire inferno. It's just spinning the wheel all the way up the hill, heading into the very technical chicane, uphill chicane anyway. And we got on the brakes. That's a big endo, but he keeps it under control. Still smoking his way up the hill climb there. A little bit of a two-wheel moment it looked like from there, where you still are burning rubber all the way down. Not much you can do about it. You either put some power down, or you can smoke the tires, and you'd rather smoke the tires in this case. Going over the hill, big oversteer moment, but he keeps it nice and controlled. Didn't lose too much time in that. Now we have a really tricky corner for the Fiesta, and he gets on the brakes, big endo. Coming around, we only have two more corners left to go after this. Turning, a little bit of, yeah, it's got a little bit of two-wheel moment from that grip roll from these super grippy tires, and the fact it is a hatchback, most of its weight is above the car. Still smoking. This has got to be the smokiest one we've ever had around here. Getting on the brakes, a little bit squirrely in the final corner, heading around. Now it's just a run to the line. He's still smoking the tires, but he is going to put that hammer down as he goes across the line. 143.6. Not quite. He's endoing like mad, but he is getting it nice and under control. Now this 1960s Volkswagen here is, on the surface, a very normal car. There's no, on the surface anyway, no silly suspension, no jelly or anything like that. It's very simple, but if you look at the steering and what the car's actually doing, it's, one person put it as drunk. It just kind of wobbles about with the steering not really connected to anything. I don't know how the tuning on that works, but it is certainly a challenge to drive, just because you're never quite sure where the car is going to want to go. And that means this 450 horsepower, roughly, Volkswagen from the 60s is quite a handful in a very different way. There's no tuning on the brakes, there's no falling over, it's just going to slither its way up the hill like so. That is, it looks like an ice skater. Now, he did tell me before the run that the best way to get this car around the corners is to drift it. Because when you're drifting, for whatever reason, the suspension, or whatever's causing the sliding around, is less impactful. So I can imagine he's going to be trying to go quite sideways up this hill. Yes, he is. Those are massive slides, giving the Fiesta a run for its smoky money. Question is, though, will this sideways driving style be too slow for the run? Because after all, drifting is significantly slower, but with a vehicle that wobbles around this much, it might actually be faster. We are not sure. We're going to have to wait for the time. He's at the crest of the hill now, still going sideways, a little bit on the grass, but he is making it spectacularly up the hill, heading into the downhill section now. Still following the drifting procedure, not quite as much. I take that back. That is a massive slide. And you can just see it wobbling about when he's not drifting. It's very weird to look at. You don't really know what you're looking at. You think the guy's slightly intoxicated, but he is trying to control that demonic Volkswagen as best as possible. He's on the final straight now. Look at the weaving back and forth. That is spectacular. Chucks it into the final corner, a little bit of understeer out of all things, kicks the back out to get the thing going around the corner, and now has to run to the line. He's smooth. Nope, never mind. He is going back sideways, and across the line. But not, way down. 150.000. That is going to be substantially down on that Veloster. And that's not ideal for the drunken Volkswagen. This next vehicle is quite possibly the maddest vehicle I have ever seen in the history of a Forza game. It's a Jeep with the softness dialed up to 11. Everything is at maximum softness, meaning, well, it doesn't really drive properly. If you're looking here, it's kind of falling over everywhere. When it's not falling over, it's endoing. When it's not endoing, it is falling over or wheeling or something else. It's one of the maddest vehicles you'll ever see. This Jeep Renegade CJ5 is, I can imagine if you were a little bit drunk or, not drunk at all and just, eating food, you would probably vomit. You might just vomit watching this. This is going to be a warning right here heading onto this run. Warning in advance. It almost wheelies off the line. The suspension wobble is fantastic on launch as he rock up this hill. However, it does have over 500 horsepower in all-wheel drive, but it's two-wheeling. It's nearly fallen over before it gets to turn 1. That's the tripoding. That is looking very difficult to drive. It's wheeling on one wheel. It's hit the wall. It's just about going. We do have that roll bar there for security for the driver. He's almost rolled it heading into the uphill chicane. It's it is a Bronco, that is for sure. I'm pretty sure a Cowboy does not have this much issue. The wheelie is fantastic. That is, that looks very difficult to drive. Heading up to the crest of the hill now. Almost rolls it going around the fast, high-speed corner, but he keeps it. Never mind, he's off the track. He's back on it. He's nearly fallen over. He has actually jumped without a ramp by the suspension alone. That is, that is fantastic. Nearly falls over again with the more wheelies. Heading into the downhill braking zone. Whoa, wheeling into a braking zone is never ideal. That's generally considered a bad thing. The onboard cameras are horrifying. But he is almost done with this run, thankfully, and you will never have to watch that replay ever again from cockpit view. Almost rolls it again, but the acceleration will help him out of the corners. Won't be enough to beat the drunken Volkswagen. We shall see. Heading into the final corner, more bouncing. He drifts it around the entire final corner. Suspension completely collapsing. But he is done with the hard part. He just needs to power it across the line as so. Ooh, 2 seconds down on the Volkswagen. That is a shame. This next vehicle is far more sensible. They took an engine from a Dodge Charger Hellcat, put 1,000 horsepower in it, and then shoved it under the hood of a Honda Odyssey minivan. Yep. And they gave the Hellcat van. Yes, we actually have a front-wheel drive, 1,000 horsepower, supercharged van. And it is off. It is still front-wheel drive, but a bit of wheel spin, as you would expect from a 1,000 horsepower V8 minivan. Heading up, and it should be very quick off the line. Now, it does have full racing amenities, so it might not be as bad as it sounds. You can see the wing there. Massive one-tire fire, but not quite as much as the Fiesta. Nice and tidy into the turn 1. Up the hill, a little bit wheel spin. He is struggling to put the power down in the van, I will be honest. That is to be expected, though. Such a heavy vehicle, it actually goes up the uphill chicane quite nicely. That was very surprising, in fact. Clobbering the curb, not too bad. The van is doing surprisingly well. That's very fast, heading into that corner. That's some good speed around there, I must say. I thought the van would struggle a fair bit more through the corners, but it is doing well, and even more so, it is dealing with that 1,000 horsepower way better than I ever expected. It gets wheel spin, sure, bursts of it here and there, but it's actually very controllable. This is on to be quite a good lap if he can pull it off. Can the Hellcat Odyssey actually beat the Veloster? Now, I should say this is S-Class for this vehicle, so it would be considerably higher PI, with 5 times the horsepower near enough, but he's going around the final corner now. He is on track to beat it. Can he emerge the sign? Gets oversteer in the van. Will that cost him the win? He's going, he's across the line ahead of the Veloster. 137.6. It is exactly 1 second faster for the van. And I'm saying more power, I mean it has 1,000 horsepower, again from a Hellcat engine, but instead of being in a van, it's in a lifted Jeep rock crawler with interesting suspension and brakes. You see, it has very grippy tires, and it wheelies off the line, as you can see. Oh, and it does tend to front flip heading into corners, so we shall see what happens on this run. He's going up the hill very fast, gets some air time. And that is, whoa, it's bouncing around. That's a massive endo from the Trailcat. That is a ridiculous endo from the Jeep. When he is making it around the course, he hasn't hit the wall like the previous Jeep. It's actually relatively sensible if you exclude the bouncing around. Another small endo there, heading up the uphill chicane. Bit of a wheelie, but again, much more tame. Oh, he gets a bit of oversteer from suspension collapse. He's tripoding. He is wheeling again. It is starting to unravel. Big endo heading into this corner. He's got to get it nice and slow so it does not. Oh, he's off the track again. He's in the exact same area as the other Jeep, but he is making it along just fine. There's a bit of a two-wheel moment over the crest. But other than that, it's actually been relatively planted. He's hit the wall. That's not going to help his time, but it's also not going to do nearly as much as I think we will expect. The question is, will he be faster than his, older brethren, shall we say. Heading around the corner, he's got, oh, that's a massive endo. He gets under control. That is the danger with endo cards. If you break into a corner and it starts to endo, you have to lift off or you may front flip. He hits the wall again, but he is keeping this manic Hellcat under control. He's got one more corner to go. You can see the suspension lean. It is tremendous. He's murdered the side. He's hit another wall. Will it be enough to beat the other vehicles? It is across the line with, oh, he's endoing. He did a 1:45.9. It is not quite as fast, and it just about comes to a stop. This is, on the surface, a very sensible aerial. No man, it's a bit understeery, but very sensible until it starts to, as you see here, hit a bump. Yeah, it is a bit of a wheelie car, only on the bumps, because the chassis and the suspension have been stiffened by 100%, which means two things. If it hits a bump, or a hill, or anything, it goes for a massive flip, and two, it does get quite a bit of understeer, so we shall see what this Nomad can do up the hill. He has to be very careful with these turns to make sure he actually, gets it turned. And you look at the suspension bounce, it looks like it's made out of concrete, those suspension. It's just bouncing up and down on these bumps. He has to take it very cautiously up the hill, almost hits the wall. He's inches away, if not less than that, but he makes it around just fine. He goes up to the line. Are we going to see any issues? No, not really. He lifted off in there. That's good. He's keeping it nice and tidy, nice and safe. He doesn't want to go too crazy, especially on this uphill cresting curve here, because that'll be the last place you want to get a wheelie heading into that corner. And he handles it well. Going over the crest. He almost hits the wall. He's throwing on the grass ever so slightly, but he keeps that under control. He only has a few more corners left. He gets very close to the wall. He's kind of so close with that understeer. It's not very spectacular, but it may very well be quick if he can keep it all under control. Will it be enough? He has one more corner to go, and this vehicle has a 775 horsepower racing engine in it, so it can certainly go quite quick when it wants to. It gets traumatic understeer around the final corner, but he is around. He doesn't need to go to the line, and he's going. It's not quite enough. Oh, it was close, and he's rolling it. Oh, he's rolling it quite badly, but it is in second place, 1:37.3. Not quite as fast as the van, but still pretty impressive. The next car needs no introduction. It is a 1957 BMW Isetta bubble car. But this is no ordinary bubble car. You see, the ordinary bubble car has 13 horsepower, 11 torque, and 3.5 wheels, because the back two are so close together. It's basically a three-wheeler. And this one, as you can see by the acceleration, has a bit more power, as in 700 horsepower. In a car weighing less than 1,500 pounds, that looks like that. It is quite a tripoding vehicle, but it might actually be pretty quick. Not if it goes sideways, though. I mean, I can imagine this is very difficult to drive. 700 horsepower going through those two tiny, pinnily rear tires would be quite scary, I would imagine. He is just formula drifting it up this hill. I mean, it's very cinematic in a weird bubble car sort of way, but he is already at the crest, so it might be fast, but is it fast enough to dethrone that Nomad that ran previous? He clips the wall, he's wheeling, he lost a headlight, but he's just going to keep going. He's on the grass from that twitch. That is the problem. He's almost rolled it. That is the problem with these very small cars, short wheelbase, rear engine, rear wheel drive. They are terrifying to drive, especially with the more power, and it just goes more sideways. It is a drift monster, this Isetta, apparently. He strafes the wall, so he loses the other headlight. You didn't need that anyway. adds weight. He's a big oversteer moment heading into the final corner straightaway. Just one more to go. Can he keep it nice and tight? No, he's going more sideways with the tripod, no less. More sideways. And he just has to run to the line. He'll be very fast. Will he be fast enough? And it will not be enough. It's in third place right now. 1:37.4, and it's just a tenth of a second off that Nomad, but not quite enough. We continue on with the microcar theme with the Fiat 500 that, well, wheelies. Yeah, it's a proper wheelie car here. Wheelies in 4th gear, maybe more. I haven't tried it in 5th, but it is an incredibly big wheelie car, as you can see there with the big wheelie off the launch. But it does have over 500 horsepower, rear engine, rear wheel drive, very good traction that helps the wheelie so much. But he can't use all of that power. And what will happen to the suspension when it goes into a corner? We will see in about 5 seconds. Get on the brakes, you can see the front end diving down with that super soft suspension. He makes it on the corner very nicely, though. He can't use very much throttle over these crests, or it will just burst in the wheelie. And that is not what you want. You can just see the front end lifting up and down, up and down. A little bit of a wheelie heading into the uphill chicane. He just keeps it out of the wall. That is very close. Big twitch. He had to get on the brakes there to make sure he didn't spire into the wall. That's a massive wheelie heading into the wall. He amazingly keeps it out underneath the Audi gantry. But he is heading in another massive wheelie. Will he keep it under control? Whoa, tripod. He's on the grass like the other Jeeps that have visited that area before. He's heading another wheelie. He's bouncing all over the place. He's just kept it out of the wall. Very close to that white line. He has now crested the hill with a jump. Another, the second vehicle today to launch itself into the air with no jump ramp at all. Heading around, just a few more corners to go. It's not looking too good, but he has made it surprisingly clean. He's had a very number of close calls. He only has 2 more corners to go, though. He's around the second to last corner with a wheelie, no less, as it should be in this car. Almost spires it into the wall. He's losing control. He keeps it under his grasp. 1 more corner to go, gets on the brakes. Now he wants to go full throttle here, but he knows he can't, because if he does, he will wheelie. Just like that. Whoa, he has to lift off. That's going to cost him some time. He's still wheeling, and he wheelies across the line. Massive launch at the end. Keeps it somehow on the ground, but it is not quick. 149.7, 149.4. Ooh, not too good, I'll be honest. This next vehicle is actually one of the most sensible ones here, in theory. It is simply a drag car, nothing more, nothing less, built for the 10-second quarter mile. Now that is good, in the fact that there's no silly suspension. It's also good in the acceleration off the line. You can see that the acceleration is brutal and the speed is tremendous, 160 plus in the Fox Body Stang. But what happens when it gets to a turn? Will it just traumatizingly understeer the wall? We will see. It's actually very nice around that first corner. I'm kind of surprised for it being on drag tires. It's very good up this hill. I'm astounded. When we invited the drag car, we thought it would be traumatizingly understeering, no turning at all, but this thing is actually powering up the hill very nicely for being on drag tires with the drag tune, but it is going well. And then the acceleration. So it doesn't have the brakes, and it doesn't have the turning of other vehicles like the Hellvan, but the acceleration from that drag car spec is just unworldly fast. It's the fastest accelerating car by far here, and it is using that to maximum extent, but I'm amazed on how controllable it is through the corners. That is really impressive and surprising, I'll be honest. I did not expect it to be as well as it is through the corners. I can't imagine it's the easiest to drive, but it looks on this run up here very simple. A little bit of oversteer, but not too much of those drag tires gripping to the ground. 1 more corner to go for the Stang. It's looking to be an absolute blitzer of a time. Oh, wow, this thing is going to dominate that van, and indeed it does. Oh, the only car sub 130, 128.4 for the Stang. That puts it quite a long way to the top of the table. That was blisteringly fast. And the final car of the day is the highest PI of the day. This is midway through R class. And as you can see, it does tend to lean. This is a proper, full-blown jelly car. The Arctic Truck Hilux from Toyota is here with 1,000 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and the softest suspension known to man. In fact, this is the best jelly car in the entire game, but the launch is very impressive, but then he has to slow it way down, a bit of a lockup, because you breathe on the steering and it just wants to flip. It's pretty nice, not gonna lie, pretty nice on this first corner. Oh, that's a big two-wheel moment. It was very nice, and then it just wanted to go over. Alright, again, up there, not too shabby, nothing serious, but not very quick either. Whoa! That's not quick, and it just wants to fall over. That is not very fast, and it just wants to tumble. That's a two-wheel moment, going over the hill, that's a two-wheel moment, then we get on the power. It does have very good acceleration, not quite that of the drag car, but it is not bad for a big truck. But he has to slow it down so much for those turns, otherwise it flips. Oh, that was at almost a 45-degree angle. He has to go so slow or else it will just want to two-wheel. That's the way to avoid the grass, I guess. Didn't want to clip the grass, so he two-wheeled over it. Heading down, he crested the hill, he's down in the downhill section. The suspension is bouncing like mad. That is on board from the two-wheel moment. That is terrifying. I don't know how you can drive at such an angle like that. He goes way too deep in there. Oh, he's gonna roll it. Nope, he kept it under control, but he nearly spun it. That's gonna cost him a whole heap of time. Will this be slower than the Crazy Renegade? We don't know. It's certainly not exactly controllable. Heading around the final corner, he's trying not to two-wheel it. He's two-wheeling it anyway. He's two-wheeling around the whole corner on two wheels, but he's on the run to the line. Can he do it? Can he beat it? Yes, he can. He will score in 8th place. 148 for beating out the wheelie Fiat, but not by much. He is two-wheel like mad, but he has survived, and he has finished across the line with a respectable time, all things considered. Dragster Foxbody coming in with a relative surprise victory. I did not expect that to be as fast as it was around the corners, but it was quite good, as was the Hellcat-powered Odyssey, scoring 2nd place with a 1:33.6. That is very, very good. The fastest, that's a silly vehicle, it's a crazy one, would be the Nomad, but that was also a relatively sensible run, just a lot of understeer followed by a massive flip at the end. Only proper crash of the day, luckily. And then we have the rest. The Veloster N does get beamed by one more car, it gets beamed by the Isetta, but the stock C-Class hot hatchback successfully defeated 6 cars. That's quite impressive. It beat the Crazy. It beat both Jeeps, the front flip and the Jelly Wheelie Endo Car of Death. It also beat the Wheelie Fiat, the Hilux. It was a surprisingly good time. Speaking of surprisingly good, the Endo Fiesta, not too far off of that Veloster's pace, some 5 seconds further down the road, which, considering the one-tire fireness of that vehicle and the tendency to endo, I thought that was a pretty good job, well done. So there we go, that was the first ever running of the Forza Festival of Silliness. I hope this gives you a bit of a breather, a bit more silliness, a bit more relaxation and humor. Bad news we've been getting this very difficult time, but that is going to be the for this episode of Forza Motorsport 7. I'll be back with more.